God, what will happen when they find out?
The pregnancy test sat on our bathroom counter like a loaded tool. 2 pink lines stared back at me, bright as neon signs in a strip club window. "Adam, baby, look," Lena whispered, her voice cracking with what sounded like joy. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she held the white plastic stick between trembling fingers. "We're going to be a family." I wrapped my arms around her from behind, studying her reflection in the mirror. Her smile looked genuine enough, but something nagged at me. The test packaging lay crumpled in the trash, too pristine, like it had never seen the inside of a medicine cabinet. Brand new. The same brand I'd seen in those staged social media announcements that flooded my timeline. "This is incredible," I said, kissing the top of her head. "We should get you to a doctor right away. First trimester is crucial." Her body tensed slightly in my arms. "Of course, I'll call my clinic tomorrow. Actually, I'd feel better if we went to my hospital network. Better coverage, and I know the staff personally." I kept my voice gentle, supportive. "My insurance will cover everything. No out-of-pocket costs." "That's so sweet of you." She turned in my arms, pressing her face against my chest. "I'm just so happy right now." But her pulse hammered against my shoulder. I'd spent 5 years working in hospital operations, learning to read stress signals in patients and families. This wasn't excitement, this was panic wearing a mask. Later, after Lena fell asleep, I sat in my home office staring at my phone. The reasonable part of my brain told me I was being paranoid. The part that had survived 3 years of marriage to a pathological liar told me to document everything. I opened a new text to my cousin Sam, who was finishing his medical residency at our network. "Start the folder. Title, Paper Wedding." His response came back within minutes. "Jesus, Adam, what did she do now?" "Pregnancy test tonight. Something feels off." "Want me to pull strings for an early appointment?" "No strings. Everything by the book. I need this clean." The next morning, Lena hummed while making coffee, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. She had already posted a cryptic Instagram story, a photo of baby shoes with heart emojis. The engagement announcement all over again, designed for maximum attention. "I called the clinic," she said, not meeting my eyes. "They can see me next week." "Perfect. I already set up an appointment at the hospital for Thursday. Dr. Martinez is the best OB in the city." Her coffee mug slipped slightly in her hands. "You didn't need to do that. My clinic is fine." "I want to be involved in everything," I said, pulling her close. "This is our baby, our future. We're in this together." She smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. Thursday morning arrived gray and drizzling. Lena had dressed carefully. Flowing top, strategically placed scarf, the perfect picture of early pregnancy glow. We sat in Dr. Martinez's waiting room among genuinely pregnant women, their bellies round and proud. "Adam Hale and Lena Wyatt," the nurse called. In the examination room, Dr. Martinez reviewed the intake forms with professional warmth. "Congratulations on your pregnancy. When was your last menstrual period?" Lena's hand fluttered to her purse. "Oh no, I forgot my ID. I'm so scattered lately." "Pregnancy brain, you know?" Dr. Martinez smiled patiently. "We'll need identification for insurance purposes and to create your medical record." "I could come back," Lena said quickly. "Maybe next week when I'm more organized." "Actually," I interrupted gently, "we could just use my insurance information today and sort out the details later. I don't want to delay prenatal care." Lena's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'm feeling a little nauseous. Could we skip the blood work today? Just do the basic exam?" "Blood work is standard protocol," Dr. Martinez explained. "We need to confirm the pregnancy and check your levels. It's completely routine." "I understand," Lena said, pressing her hand to her stomach. "But I'm really sensitive right now. Could we do it next week?" I watched her performance with clinical detachment. The forgotten ID wasn't an accident. Neither was the sudden nausea that conveniently appeared when medical confirmation was mentioned. "Of course," Dr. Martinez said. "We want you to be comfortable, but I'll need you to schedule the blood work within the week. We'll also want to do an ultrasound to establish dates and confirm viability." Lena nodded eagerly. "Absolutely. Next week for sure." As we left the office, I made a mental note of every excuse, every deflection. In the parking garage, Lena leaned against my car and exhaled shakily. "That went well," she said. "Really well," I agreed. "Dr. Martinez seems thorough. I appreciate that she wants to do everything properly." "Sometimes I think doctors are too cautious. My body feels pregnant. Isn't that enough?" "Medical confirmation protects both you and the baby," I said, opening her car door. "I've seen too many cases where early intervention made all the difference." That evening, Sam called while Lena was in the shower. "How did it go?" he asked. "Exactly as expected. Forgot her ID, wanted to skip labs, felt too sick for blood work." "Christ, you're really doing this?" "I'm documenting her choices," I corrected. "If she's pregnant, I'll be the best father I can be. If she's not, you'll have evidence of attempted fraud." "I'll have evidence of the truth." Sam was quiet for a moment. "You know this could blow up spectacularly." "It already has," I said. "I just haven't lit the fuse yet." The next morning, I found Lena on the phone with someone, her voice hushed but urgent. "No, I need more time," she was saying. "The labs can't happen yet." She hung up quickly when she saw me. "Morning sickness hotline," she said with a forced laugh. "They have support groups for everything these days." "That's wonderful," I said, kissing her forehead. "I'm glad you're getting support." But I'd already started my own documentation. Every conversation, every excuse, every deflection was going into a file that would either vindicate her or bury her. Either way, the truth would come out. I bought the pregnancy test from a pharmacy across town, paying cash and keeping the receipt. The kind with tamper-proof packaging and date stamps. The kind that couldn't be faked or manipulated. "Lena, sweetheart," I said when I got home, holding up the box. "I thought we should do another test together for our peace of mind." Her face went pale. "Why? We already know I'm pregnant." "I want to share this moment with you," I said, putting my arms around her. "Call it sentimental, but I want to see those lines appear with my own eyes." She hesitated, her fingers tracing the sealed packaging. "These cheap pharmacy tests aren't always accurate. This one's hospital grade, same brand we use at work." I kept my voice loving, supportive. "Humor your anxious boyfriend?" 20 minutes later, we stood in the bathroom staring at a single line. "Negative." Lena burst into tears, real ones this time. "I don't understand. Yesterday, I felt so pregnant. Maybe it's too early? Maybe my hormones are off?" I held her while she sobbed, my phone discreetly recording the timestamp of our test. "These things happen," I murmured. "Bodies are complicated." "I need to call my doctor," she said, pulling away. "Something's wrong." The next day, she came home with a glossy positive test from a boutique clinic downtown, the kind that charged $300 for what Walgreens sold for $12. "See?" she said triumphantly, waving the expensive plastic. "I knew something was off with that cheap test. Dr. Reeves confirmed it. I'm definitely pregnant." "Dr. Reeves?" I asked. "My new OB. She's holistic, focuses on natural pregnancy. Much better than those sterile hospital environments." I nodded thoughtfully. "I'd love to meet her. When's your next appointment?" "She's very exclusive. Doesn't usually see partners until the second trimester." "How modern of her." That weekend, I called the boutique clinic. A cheerful receptionist confirmed they offered pregnancy confirmation services, but couldn't discuss specific patients. When I asked about Dr. Reeves, there was a pause. "Dr. Reeves is our consulting physician," she said carefully. "She reviews results and provides documentation for our clients." "Documentation? Official pregnancy confirmations for insurance purposes, employer leave, that sort of thing. Very professional, very discreet." I thanked her and hung up. A clinic that sold pregnancy confirmations like luxury handbags. Of course, Lena had found it. Monday evening, her parents called for a family dinner. Trevor and Diane Wyatt had always treated me like an interesting pet. Harmless, but not quite house-trained. I was useful for home repairs and reaching tall shelves, but hardly marriage material for their precious daughter. "So," Trevor said over dessert, his voice carrying that particular tone wealthy men used when discussing business. "Lena tells us you two have some exciting news." "We're very happy," I said, reaching for Lena's hand. Diane practically glowed. "Our first grandchild. We're beside ourselves." "Actually," Trevor continued, cutting into his tiramisu with surgical precision, "Diane and I were thinking it might be wise to accelerate your wedding timeline before things become too obvious." Lena squeezed my hand. "Daddy, we haven't even set a date yet." "Nonsense. 3 months should be plenty of time for a proper wedding. I know people." I looked around the table at their expectant faces. 3 months. Just enough time to plan a spectacular failure. "I think that's a wonderful idea," I said. "Why wait when we're this happy?" Lena beamed at me across the table. "Really? Really? Let's give our baby the wedding story they deserve." Later, walking to our car, Lena pressed against my side. "You made my parents so happy tonight," she said. "Daddy's been worried about my future. This takes so much pressure off." "Pressure?" Oh, you know how parents are, always wanting their kids to be settled and secure. I did know how parents were. I also knew how gold diggers were, and I was beginning to understand exactly what kind of pressure Lena was really under. 3 months to plan a wedding, 3 months to document a lie, 3 months to decide whether I wanted justice or just wanted out. As we drove home through the quiet suburbs, I realized I wanted both. The Wyatts took over wedding planning like a hostile corporate takeover. Within a week, Diane had secured the Ritz Ballroom, booked a 12-piece orchestra, and scheduled appointments with 3 different florists. Trevor handled the business side, vendor contracts, insurance, media coordination. Media? I asked during one of their planning sessions. Local society pages, lifestyle bloggers, Diane explained, shuffling through vendor proposals. Lena's pregnancy adds such a romantic element to the story. Young love, new family, the American dream. I watched Lena fidget with her engagement ring. I didn't realize we were going public with the pregnancy. Darling, there's no hiding it for long, Diane said. Better to control the narrative from the beginning. That phrase stuck with me. Control the narrative. I excused myself to the bathroom and called my lawyer. David, it's Adam. I need you to review some wedding vendor contracts. Congratulations are in order, I assume? Something like that. I need specific language added to all agreements. Morals clauses, truthful representation requirements, fraud protections. David paused. That's unusual for wedding vendors. It's been an unusual courtship. I'll draft something comprehensive. These vendors agreeing to modified terms? They will if they want the Wyatt money. The modifications were subtle but thorough. Any vendor who provided services based on false information could void contracts and pursue damages. Any vendor who participated in fraudulent representations could be released from exclusivity agreements. David's language was elegant, buried in standard legal boilerplate that most people skimmed over. Trevor signed everything without reading it, too focused on the prestige of the venue bookings. Diane was lost in flower arrangements and menu tastings. Lena was busy managing her expanding web of pregnancy lies. Meanwhile, Sam had been quietly building our evidence file, not medical records. Those were protected and irrelevant. But attendance records, appointment scheduling, insurance claim attempts. A paper trail of Lena's systematic avoidance of actual medical confirmation. She scheduled 6 different appointments across 3 facilities, Sam reported during one of our coffee meetings. Canceled every single one within hours of the appointment time. Always with an excuse? Sudden illness, family emergencies, scheduling conflicts, the pattern's obvious to anyone paying attention. But not illegal. Not yet. But if she signs marriage documents claiming pregnancy for financial benefit, that's fraud. That's prosecutable fraud. I stirred my coffee, watching steam rise from the cup. She's not stupid, Sam. She won't put anything in writing that directly connects pregnancy to marriage benefits. She won't have to. Her parents are doing it for her. He slid a tablet across the table, showing the Wyatt social media accounts. Diane had been posting daily updates about wedding preparations, each one mentioning their blessed upcoming grandchild. Trevor had shared articles about tax benefits of married filing jointly, especially with dependents. They were creating a public record of their motivations, whether they realized it or not. Beautiful, I said, screenshotting everything. That evening, Lena cornered me in the kitchen while I was making dinner. You've been distracted lately, she said, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind. Nervous about the wedding? Just want everything to be perfect. It will be. We're perfect. I turned in her arms, studying her face. Are you happy, Lena? Really happy? Of course. Why would you ask that? Sometimes I wonder if we're rushing things. Maybe we should wait until after the baby comes. Her grip on my waist tightened. No, I want to be married before I start showing. I want our wedding photos to be beautiful, not me looking fat and swollen. You'd never look anything but beautiful to me. That's sweet, but I know how I want our day to look. Everything perfect, everything planned. Everything fake, I thought, but didn't say. Then perfect it is, I agreed. She kissed me, tasting like the prenatal vitamins she'd started taking for show, another prop in her increasingly elaborate performance. 3 weeks until the wedding. 3 weeks to finish documenting the greatest lie I'd ever witnessed. 3 weeks to decide exactly how spectacular I wanted her downfall to be. I was leaning toward spectacular. I scheduled a consultation with Dr. Patricia Hayes, the head of obstetrics policy at our hospital network. not as a patient's partner, but as an operations director reviewing procedural compliance. Perfectly legitimate, completely above board. Adam, good to see you, Dr. Hayes said, gesturing to a chair in her office. What can I help you with? I'm reviewing our intake procedures for high-risk situations, specifically cases where patients avoid or delay standard prenatal protocols. Dr. Hayes nodded. Unfortunately common. Some women are nervous about medical environments, others have financial concerns. What about cases where patients repeatedly schedule and cancel appointments? That's a red flag for us. Usually indicates either severe anxiety or, she paused diplomatically, or deception. Let's say situations where the patient's stated condition may not align with medical reality. I leaned forward. Hypothetically, if a patient claimed pregnancy but consistently avoided confirmation procedures, what would be your clinical assessment? Hypothetically? I'd be very concerned about false pregnancy, either psychological or deliberate. We're required to document all appointment attempts and cancellations. Creates a pattern that's difficult to ignore. These documentation requirements, they're legally mandated. Absolutely. Patient safety, liability protection, insurance compliance. We can't provide appropriate care without accurate information. I thanked Dr. Hayes and left with exactly what I needed. Confirmation that Lena's behavior created a documentable pattern of medical avoidance, not diagnostic information, just procedural concerns that any healthcare professional would recognize. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. This is Rachel Ng. We need to talk about Lena. I remembered Rachel, Lena's former best friend, excommunicated 6 months ago for negative energy. According to Lena, Rachel had become jealous and bitter, spreading lies and trying to sabotage their friendship. I called the number. Thank God, Rachel said when she answered. I wasn't sure you'd call back. What's this about? It's about Lena destroying your life. Can we meet somewhere private? An hour later, we sat in a coffee shop across town. Rachel looked exhausted, like someone who'd been carrying a heavy secret too long. She's not pregnant, Rachel said without preamble. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, it's fact. She told me 3 months ago she was planning to trap you into marriage. Her exact words, Adam's too good for me, but he's also too decent to abandon a pregnant girlfriend. My coffee went cold in my hands. You're sure about this? I recorded the conversation. Rachel pulled out her phone, scrolling to a voice memo. She laughed about it, Adam. She thought it was clever. The recording was crystal clear. Lena's voice, bright with malicious joy. The pregnancy thing is genius because men can't handle the idea of abandoning their unborn child. Even if they suspect something's off, they won't risk it. And by the time they figure it out, we're married, and I have legal protections. Legal protections? Rachel's voice on the recording. Spousal support, asset division, the whole package. Plus, if I handle it right, I can stretch out the pregnancy lie for months. Loss of pregnancies happen, you know? So sad, but at least we have each other. I set my phone down carefully. When was this recorded? 2 weeks before she told you she was pregnant. She'd already bought fake tests online, researched clinics that provide documentation without real medical exams. Why didn't you warn me sooner? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I tried. I sent hints, asked mutual friends to talk to you. But Lena's good at controlling information. She told everyone I was jealous, unstable, trying to ruin her happiness. And you believed her campaign was working? Until last week, when I saw the wedding announcement, I realized she was actually going through with it. I studied Rachel's face, looking for deception or hidden motives. All I saw was genuine regret and worry. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing. I just want you to know the truth before you legally tie yourself to her. What you do with the information is your choice. That night, I sat in my home office listening to Rachel's recording on repeat. Lena's laughter echoed through my headphones, bright and sharp as broken glass. She thought she was clever. She thought she understood me. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The rehearsal dinner at the country club felt like a scene from a movie about people I didn't know. 200 guests, string quartet, champagne fountains. The Wyatts had spared no expense in creating the perfect prelude to their perfect fraud. I stood at the head table, watching Lena work the room in a flowing blue dress that artfully suggested early pregnancy curves. She'd mastered the pose, one hand resting protectively on her stomach, radiant smile, glowing skin from expensive treatments. "Ladies and gentlemen," Trevor called, tapping his champagne glass. If I could have your attention. The room quieted, faces turning toward us with expectant smiles. Tomorrow, we celebrate the union of two wonderful young people, Trevor continued, his arm around Diane's shoulders. But tonight, we celebrate family. The family that raised our beautiful daughter, and the family that's about to grow. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. I felt Lena's hand slip into mine, her fingers trembling slightly. Diane and I couldn't be prouder of Lena and Adam, Trevor went on, and we couldn't be more excited about our first grandchild. Louder applause, some cheers from the younger crowd. Lena beamed, accepting congratulations and air kisses from the guests who approached our table. During a lull in the festivities, I excused myself and found Sam near the bar. Everything ready for tomorrow? I asked quietly. Sam nodded, patting his jacket pocket. 3 copies of everything. Clean documentation, legal review, timeline analysis. David confirmed the vendor contracts are ironclad. And the timing? Perfect. Maximum impact, minimum escape routes. I looked across the room at Lena, surrounded by well-wishers and photographers. She was performing beautifully, playing the radiant bride-to-be with Oscar-worthy commitment. She has no idea, Sam observed. She thinks she's won already. Haven't you ever felt guilty about this? Even a little? I considered the question seriously. I felt guilty about not trusting her initially. Then I heard her laugh about destroying my life, and the guilt disappeared. As the evening wound down, I made my way back to Lena's side. The photographer was setting up for couple portraits, directing us to pose by the fireplace. "This is perfect," Lena whispered as we waited for the flash. "Everything's exactly how I imagined it." "Your imagination is impressive," I said. "Tomorrow's going to be the most important day of our lives." I couldn't agree more. The photographer captured us in that moment. Lena glowing with anticipation, me smiling with something that probably looked like love, but felt more like satisfaction. As we left the country club, Lena's parents cornered us in the parking lot. "Adam's son," Trevor said, his voice warm with booze and sentiment. "I want you to know how proud we are to welcome you into this family. Especially now," Diane added, her eyes bright. "With the baby coming, it feels like everything's falling into place." "Everything's exactly where it needs to be," I agreed. Lena squeezed my arm. "I can't wait to be your wife." "Tomorrow," I said, kissing her forehead. "Tomorrow changes everything." She had no idea how right she was. My wedding day began at 5 a.m. with a text from David. Contracts confirmed, vendors notified, documentation sealed and ready. I'd slept surprisingly well for a man about to detonate his own wedding. Maybe because I finally had perfect clarity about what I was doing and why. The venue buzzed with activity, florists arranging centerpieces, caterers setting up the reception hall, photographers testing lighting for the ceremony, everything orchestrated to perfection, ready to capture Lena's special day for posterity. Sam arrived at 7 with coffee and a final briefing. "The parents received their packages an hour ago," he reported. "Their reactions." Diane called the hotel front desk twice, asking if there was a mistake with the delivery. Trevor's been pacing his room since 6:30. The packages contained copies of the hospital process documentation, not medical records, but attendance logs showing Lena's pattern of appointment avoidance, administrative letters confirming no completed prenatal care at any network facility, insurance claim records showing 0 pregnancy-related services approved or rendered. All perfectly legal, all perfectly damning. "Think they'll confront her before the ceremony?" Sam asked. "Too late now. Guests are arriving, photographers are here, vendors are committed. The show must go on." By 9 a.m., the venue was transforming into something from a fairy tale. White roses and baby's breath everywhere, silk ribbons fluttering in the morning breeze, crystal glasses catching sunlight like scattered diamonds. I watched from the groom's suite as guests arrived. Society photographers positioned themselves strategically, lifestyle bloggers documented every detail, local news crews set up discreet cameras to capture the romantic pregnancy wedding that had generated so much social media buzz. Lena had wanted a perfect narrative. She was about to get one. At 10:30, Diane appeared at my door. Her makeup was flawless, but her eyes were wild. "Adam, darling, we need to talk." "Of course. Is everything all right?" "The documentation you sent, there must be some mistake." I straightened my tie, meeting her gaze calmly. "What documentation?" "The hospital records. They show Lena never completed her prenatal appointments." That seems like something you should discuss with Lena. We tried. She's with the hair and makeup team, says she can't be disturbed before photos. Wedding day nerves, I said sympathetically. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. Diane's hands shook as she clutched her purse. Adam, if there's something we should know. Mrs. Wyatt, in 3 hours, your daughter and I will be married in front of 200 people. Everything that needs to be known will be known. She left without another word. At noon, guests began filling the ceremony space. The string quartet played softly while ushers guided people to their seats. Photographers captured every moment, documenting the elegant crowd and picture-perfect setting. From my position at the altar, I could see the entire scene. Trevor and Diane in the front row, both pale beneath their forced smiles. Sam standing beside me as best man, his expression carefully neutral. Rachel near the back, clutching a tissue and looking like she might bolt. The music swelled, signaling the processional's beginning. Bridesmaids glided down the aisle in soft pink, their bouquets perfectly coordinated with the venue's color scheme. Then the wedding march began, and every head turned toward the back of the venue. Lena appeared in the doorway like something from a dream. Her dress was a masterpiece of silk and lace, designed to suggest early pregnancy curves while maintaining classical elegance. Her veil cascaded behind her like morning mist, and her smile could have powered the venue's lighting system. She walked toward me with perfect poise, her father's arm guiding her down an aisle lined with roses and flickering candles. Every camera captured her radiance. Every guest smiled at her beauty. She looked like everything a bride should be, innocent, joyful, glowing with love and new life. She looked like the most beautiful lie I'd ever seen. As she reached the altar, Lena handed her bouquet to her maid of honor and turned to face me with tears of happiness in her eyes. "You look incredible," I whispered. "This is it," she whispered back. "Our perfect day. Absolutely perfect." The officiant began his remarks about love and commitment, about the sacred bonds of marriage and the blessing of new life. His words echoed through the venue's perfect acoustics, reaching every guest, every camera, every witness to what was about to unfold. Lena glowed beside me, her hand warm in mine, her pulse steady with confidence. She had no idea that in the next 10 minutes, her perfect day would become her perfect nightmare. "If anyone has a reason why this couple should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace," the officiant intoned. The traditional pause stretched through the venue like a held breath. Guests smiled at each other. Cameras focused on our joined hands. The string quartet prepared for the next musical cue. I looked out at the assembled faces, friends, family, colleagues, society photographers, local media, everyone waiting for the moment when Lena and I would pledge our lives to each other. "Actually," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the venue's sound system, "I have something to say." The officiant blinked in surprise. Lena's hand tightened in mine, her smile faltering slightly. "Adam?" she whispered. I turned to address the crowd, still holding her hand. "Thank you all for being here today to witness what was supposed to be the beginning of our marriage," I began. "Instead, you're about to witness the end of a lie." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras pivoted toward us, photographers instinctively capturing whatever was about to unfold. 3 months ago, Lena told me she was pregnant. I was overjoyed. I believed her completely, and I began planning our future around the family we were going to build together. Lena tried to pull her hand away, but I held it gently but firmly. However, as a healthcare administrator, I know the importance of proper prenatal care. I scheduled appointments, arranged insurance coverage, coordinated with the best obstetric team in the city. The crowd was completely silent now. Every face turned toward us with growing confusion. Lena canceled every appointment. She avoided every medical consultation. She refused every attempt at proper prenatal care, always with reasonable excuses. "Adam, stop!" Lena hissed, her perfect makeup beginning to crack around the edges. I reached into my jacket and withdrew a folder, holding it high enough for everyone to see. This contains documentation from 3 different medical facilities, administrative records showing a pattern of appointment avoidance, insurance records showing 0 pregnancy-related claims filed or approved, process documentation confirming no completed prenatal care. Trevor started to rise from his seat, but Diane pulled him back down. "I also have this," I continued, pulling out my phone. "A recording made by someone who cared enough about the truth to document it." I pressed play, and Lena's voice filled the venue through the sound system. The pregnancy thing is genius because men can't handle the idea of abandoning their unborn child. Even if they suspect something's off, they won't risk it. And by the time they figure it out, we're married and I have legal protections. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Cameras flashed frantically. Lena's face went white beneath her carefully applied blush. This marriage was built on paperwork, not on love, and certainly not on the heartbeat that doesn't exist, I said, releasing her hand and stepping back. The venue erupted. Guests turned to each other in shock and confusion. Photographers captured every angle of Lena's humiliation, and somewhere in the back, I could hear Rachel sobbing. Lena stood frozen at the altar, her bouquet scattered at her feet, her veil askew. "You fool," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the crowd's noise. "You taught me that truth matters more than comfort," I replied. "Thank you for that lesson." I walked down the side aisle, past stunned guests and clicking cameras, past her parents who sat like stone statues in their front row seats. Sam followed behind me, his expression grim but satisfied. At the venue's exit, I paused and looked back one final time. Lena remained at the altar, surrounded by flowers and photographers and the wreckage of her perfect lie. Her dress was still beautiful, her makeup still flawless from a distance, but everyone could see the truth now. I walked out into the afternoon sunlight, leaving her to face the consequences alone. The venue's parking lot buzzed with activity as I walked toward my car. Guests streamed out behind me, their voices a mix of shock, confusion, and excitement. Nothing like a public humiliation to spice up a society wedding. Sam caught up with me as I reached my car. "That was brutal," he said. "It was necessary. The vendors are already implementing the contract clauses. Photographers are required to provide all images to both parties. Caterers are documenting everything for potential litigation. The venue's releasing statements about fraud protection." I nodded, checking my phone. David had sent a text. "Contract triggers activated. Wyatt's liable for cancellation fees on all services. Estimated damages, $340,000. What about Lena? Still at the altar last I saw. Diane's trying to get her to the bridal suite, but she won't move." Through the venue's windows, I could see the chaos continuing inside. Guests clustered in small groups, phones out, undoubtedly sharing the drama across social media. The photographers had shifted from wedding documentation to crisis journalism. A news van pulled into the parking lot, followed by two more. Word was spreading fast. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "This is Jennifer Walsh from Channel 8 News. We're covering the incident at the Ritz today, and we'd like to get your statement." "No statement," I said, ending the call. 3 more calls came in rapid succession. Local bloggers, society reporters, someone claiming to represent a national entertainment show. I turned off my phone. "You're going to be famous," Sam observed. "I'm going to be gone." I'd already packed my apartment. Everything important was in storage or in the back of my car. By evening, I'd be in a hotel across town, and by tomorrow, I'd be in a different state entirely. "Where will you go?" "Somewhere Lena Wyatt doesn't exist." As we talked, Rachel appeared beside my car. Her makeup was streaked with tears, but she looked lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. "I'm proud of you," she said simply. "You saved my life, Rachel. I won't forget that." She had it coming. "I just wish I'd been braver sooner." "You were brave enough when it mattered." Through the venue windows, I could see Lena finally moving. Diane and 2 bridesmaids were escorting her toward the back exit, trying to avoid the main crowd. Her wedding dress dragged behind her like a wounded swan. "What happens now?" Rachel asked. "Now she faces the consequences of her choices," I said. "And I get to build the life I actually want." A black sedan pulled up, and Trevor Wyatt climbed out. His face was purple with rage and humiliation. He stormed toward me, his expensive suit wrinkled from stress. "You son of a witch," he snarled. "You destroyed my daughter." "Your daughter destroyed herself," I replied calmly. "I just documented the process." "We'll sue you for everything you have." "For what? Telling the truth? Your contracts include fraud protection clauses. Your vendors are covered, your venue is protected, and your family's lies are now public record." Trevor's hands shook with fury. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." I got in my car and drove away, leaving the Wyatt family to salvage what they could from the wreckage. 3 days later, Sam and I sat in a coffee shop 2 states away, reviewing the aftermath like military strategists analyzing a successful campaign. The social media response has been intense, Sam reported, scrolling through his tablet. #paperwedding is trending. Lena's Instagram is disabled. Her parents have gone dark on all platforms. Any legal threats? David says they've made noise about defamation, but they can't sue someone for telling the truth. The documentation is too solid. I sipped my coffee, feeling genuinely relaxed for the first time in months. What about the vendors? Most of them are publicly thanking you for exposing the fraud before they provided services under false pretenses. The venue released a statement about their commitment to honest celebrations. And the medical facilities? Dr. Hayes sent a formal letter commending your adherence to privacy laws while exposing healthcare fraud. Apparently, Lena's pattern of appointment avoidance was textbook deceptive behavior. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Trevor. I showed Sam the message. You going to respond? Eventually, let him sweat first. The coffee shop was busy with afternoon customers, normal people living normal lives without elaborate deceptions or revenge plots. I envied them their simplicity. Any regrets? Sam asked. I considered the question honestly. I regret that she made me into someone who could plan something like this. But no, I don't regret stopping her. She would have divorced you within a year anyway, and taken half my assets in the process, plus alimony payments for a child that never existed. Sam nodded grimly. Rachel sent me an update. Apparently, Lena's been working this scam for years. Different men, different lies, always something to trap them into supporting her. How many others? At least 3 that Rachel knows about. Fake pregnancies, fake illnesses, fake family emergencies. Whatever worked to extract money or commitment. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. I wasn't her first sufferer, but you were the first one smart enough to document everything. That evening, I checked into a hotel in a city where nobody knew my name or my story. Room service, cable TV, complete anonymity. It felt like luxury after months of living inside a lie. My phone rang around 9 p.m. Trevor's number. Hello, Trevor. Where are you? His voice was hoarse, defeated. Somewhere safe. We need to make this right, Adam. The family's reputation is based on lies. Maybe it's time for some honesty. What do you want? Money? A statement? We can work something out. I want nothing from you. Then why did you do this? If you knew she was lying, why not just leave quietly? I thought about that question while watching traffic flow past my hotel window. Because quiet departure enables the next sufferer, I said finally. Because lies this elaborate require consequences that match their scope. She's my daughter. And she's a hunter. How many other men has she done this to, Trevor? How many other families has she manipulated? Silence on the other end. I thought so, I said. The wedding vendors are demanding payment in full. The venue is threatening litigation. Our insurance won't cover fraud claims. That's what happens when you build a celebration on deception. Please, give us something to work with, some way to minimize the damage. I considered his desperation, weighing it against months of their condescension and manipulation. I'll issue one statement, I said finally. A brief acknowledgement that the marriage was canceled due to irreconcilable differences regarding honesty in relationships. Nothing more specific. And in exchange, you never contact me again. Any of you? Deal. I hung up and immediately called David to draft the statement. Neutral language, no specific accusations, just enough to close the public chapter of the story. But the private chapter was far from over. 2 weeks later, I agreed to meet the Wyatts at a neutral hotel downtown. They'd requested the meeting through David, claiming they wanted closure and an end to the media attention. I arrived first, choosing a table in the lobby restaurant, where conversations were public but private. Trevor and Diane appeared exactly on time, looking like they'd aged years in the past month. Adam, Diane said, her voice carefully controlled. Thank you for agreeing to see us. You said you wanted closure. Trevor pulled out a folder. We've prepared an agreement, a mutual non-disclosure that protects everyone's interests. I glanced through the document without touching it. Standard NDA language, but with interesting additions. Financial penalties for discussing private family matters. Restrictions on media cooperation. Acknowledgement that misunderstandings had occurred. Misunderstandings, I said. Poor word choice, Trevor admitted. But the intent is clear. We all move forward without relitigating the past. Where's Lena? Diane's composure cracked slightly. She's Getting help. Professional help. Therapy? Among other things, she's had to face some difficult truths about her behavior patterns. Her fraud patterns, you mean? Please, Diane whispered. She's still our daughter. I studied their faces, seeing genuine pain beneath the public relations facade. They weren't evil people, just parents who'd enabled their daughter's worst impulses for so long they'd forgotten what honesty looked like. I'll sign a modified version, I said, but I want specific language acknowledging deliberate deception regarding pregnancy claims. Trevor's jaw tightened. That's too specific. It's accurate, and it protects future potential sufferers by creating a legal record. Future sufferers? How many other men has she done this to? I know about at least 3. Diane's face went white. How did you... Rachel wasn't her only former friend willing to talk. They exchanged glances loaded with years of willful blindness. We'll accept your modifications, Trevor said quietly. David had prepared the revised language in advance. Clear acknowledgement of deceptive inducement to marriage, specific mention of fabricated pregnancy claims, and most importantly, a confession that protected future sufferers by creating legal precedent. Diane signed with shaking hands. Trevor's signature was barely legible. The financial damages? He asked. Keep your money. I never wanted it anyway. Then what did you want? The truth and consequences that matched the crime. They left without another word, carrying their signed confessions and what remained of their dignity. I sat alone in the restaurant for another hour, watching normal couples share normal conversations about normal problems. No elaborate deceptions, no fake pregnancies, no revenge plots. Just honesty, simplicity, and the possibility of genuine love. It looked peaceful. 6 months later, I was sitting in a small cafe in Portland when Lena walked in. I recognized her immediately, despite the changed hair and clothes. She'd lost weight, and something fundamental had shifted in her posture. The carnivore confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like humility. She spotted me in the corner booth and froze. For a moment, I thought she might turn and leave. Instead, she walked over slowly, clutching a coffee cup like a shield. Hello, Adam. Lena. May I sit? I gestured to the empty chair across from me. She sat carefully, avoiding eye contact. I didn't know you were in Portland, she said. I didn't know you were anywhere. Your parents said you were getting help. I am therapy mostly. Some legal issues to resolve. Legal issues? Turns out, you weren't my only sufferer. Her voice was barely above a whisper. 3 other men came forward after the wedding story went public. I nodded. I suspected as much. The district attorney was interested in patterns of fraud. I pleaded guilty to avoid prosecution. Smart. We sat in silence for several minutes, the cafe's ambient noise filling the space between us. I'm sorry, she said finally. For which part? All of it. The lies, the manipulation, the way I treated you, the way I treated everyone. What changed? Facing consequences, I guess. For the first time in my life, I couldn't charm my way out or blame someone else. I had to look at what I'd actually done. And what had you done? Destroyed people who trusted me. Stolen years of their lives based on elaborate lies. Turned love into a weapon. I studied her face, looking for traces of the woman who'd laughed about trapping me into marriage. All I saw was exhaustion and something that might have been genuine remorse. The therapy helped. Dr. Morrison says I have patterns that go back to childhood. Fear of abandonment, need for control, inability to accept love without trying to manipulate it. Do you believe her? I'm starting to. It's easier than believing I'm just a terrible person. Another long silence. Outside the cafe window, Portland's afternoon crowd moved past in rain-soaked streams. I don't forgive you, I said. I didn't ask you to. But I don't hate you anymore either. She looked up at me for the first time. What do you feel? Pity, mostly. And relief that I escaped before you destroyed both our lives. You were always too good for me. No, I was just honest. You could have been too. She nodded, tears starting to form. I know that now. What will you do? Keep working with Dr. Morrison. Pay back the money I can pay back. Try to build something real for once. Someone real? God, no. I'm nowhere near ready for that. Maybe someday, but not for years. I finished my coffee and stood to leave. I hope you find what you're looking for, Lena. What am I looking for? Yourself, the real version, not the performance. She nodded, wiping her eyes with a paper napkin. I walked toward the cafe door, then paused. Lena? Yeah? The baby thing was especially cruel, not just to me, but to every woman who's ever struggled with pregnancy or loss. I know. Make sure your therapist knows that too. I left her sitting alone in the corner booth, finally facing the truth about who she'd been and who she might become. Outside, Portland's autumn rain felt clean and new. I had a job interview that afternoon with a hospital system that valued honesty and competence over connections and appearances, a chance to build something real in a place where nobody knew my story. 3 blocks from the cafe, I stopped at a crosswalk and pulled out my phone. I had 17 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize, plus several text messages. The texts were from Rachel. Saw the news about Lena's plea deal. Hope you're doing well. Coffee sometime if you're ever back east? I typed back. Doing well. Maybe coffee soon. Thanks for everything. The light changed, and I crossed the street toward my future. Uncertain, but honest. Complicated, but clean. Behind me, the cafe grew smaller until it disappeared entirely. The end.